Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final episode of 2024, Season 3, Episode 27 of the Ear Hustling Podcast. How is everybody doing today?
It's great. I'm doing great. I feel ready for the holidays, so it's going to be a good time.
Outstanding. And Soleil, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's been a crazy, stressful week, and I'm getting closer to the finish line. So I'm feeling a little bit better today. Thanks for
All right,
asking, Eric.
all right, no problem, no problem. Patrick, I would ask how you're doing, but I think I've got a pretty good idea of how you're
Listen,
doing.
I need to bring the energy here. I feel like you guys need to just be and feel the energy of a Bills Mafia, okay? After a huge win over somebody that I believe all of you think is the number one team, but they're not. It's it's the Bills. But listen, it's hard to hate on Detroit. I love MCDC, but I guess my kneecaps or our kneecaps are a little bit too much for him to bite off. So I'm doing wonderful.
A Bills fan before the playoffs.
I'll comment on that a little bit later on. James, the voice of reason. How are you doing?
Eric, I thank you for asking me that question, but I don't want to talk about me. I don't. I want to talk about our dear friend Patrick. He's doing fine now, and that's great, right? But this past Sunday at 2:17, he was not doing so well. As you can see here, he has his foot in some sort of traction or something. He has an injury. This is a pregame injury. This is how he spent his Sunday afternoon. So I want to ask you all a question. All right. So we see Patrick is injured here. How do you think Patrick? We did trivia last week, so we got to extend that to a trivia question. One question this week. How do you think Patrick injured himself? It's a multiple choice question. All right. A, wild and passionate sex. Tried a new position.
That's the one.
No.
That's the one. That's the
B,
one right
Have
there.
mercy. Lord
Helping
have
an
mercy.
old person cross the street, rolled his ankle on the curb.
Nope.
C,
I didn't
like
help
old people.
anybody.
I'm an old soul.
C, fell doing the cha-cha slide. Or D,
Left to the
jumping up and down when he found out that Dalton Kincaid was going to play. So, let me go around the room.
love that guy.
Princeton, which one do you think it is? A, B, C, or D?
At first, I was going to go with C, but I don't think Patrick knows how to do the cha-cha slide. So
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go with the last option, jumping up
So-
and down.
You
Crazy to
think
me.
Patrick was jumping up and down when he found out Dalton Kincaid was going to play? Okay, that's a solid guess. Soleil, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he has too many moves in his repertoire to injure himself during sex. And certainly he's not playing the cha-cha slide with at the Villages, so it's got to be D.
Okay, D. Okay, we got two going for jumping up
You
and
got
down.
two D's? Go ahead, say it, James. You got two D's.
No, I'm
Where
not
are these
saying
two D's?
No, I'm not
Yeah.
saying this. No.
Go
I'm
ahead.
not giving you material. Eric, what do you say?
Oh boy, you know what? I was thinking D, but I'm just gonna go ahead and go with B. It just to kind of break things up a little bit.
So
B.
B,
What was
helping
B
an
again?
old person cross the street, rolled his ankle on the curb. That was very
Exactly.
noble guess. All right,
I'm a
so
nice guy. I'm a nice
Patrick,
guy.
did anyone get
Yeah.
it right? I know the answer, but I want to leave this to you. Did anyone get it right?
Well, technically, I mean, kind of. Okay, so the whole jumping up and down for a Bills player that actually did in fact happen last season. No, actually, it was 2 seasons ago. But that actually is a real injury, just not this specific injury. So it happened to be on the 5 hops of the cha-cha slide, and that 4th hop, man, coming down. It was no bueno. That 4th hop did me in.
So
No
It
way.
this
was the
is the
cha-cha
result.
slide.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the result of the cha-cha slide.
Yeah.
Wow.
The fourth
The
hop
one
did
that-
me in.
The one that nobody picked.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah. But a few people had it in their gut, but nevertheless. Eric,
Mm.
I yield my rest of my time to the gentleman.
To the gentlemen. Where are there gentlemen on this panel?
Hey, you know what? Yeah, there's no options. I'm sorry. Back to you, Eric.
Well, thank you very much. Well, today's show we're going to be covering two topics. One, we're going to be covering New Year's resolutions and how long do they actually last. So that's what we're going to do a little bit later on in the show. But before we get to that, we do have a friend of the show. She appeared on many episodes on the Ear Hustling Podcast season 1. So she is a certified money coach. She also has written, I believe, 7 books, if I'm not mistaken. She has given money coaching advice to the Goodwill, the United States Air Force, ROTC, to Target, and now she's a regular speaker on giving financial suggestions. So at this time, I would like to present Jen to everybody. Jen, can you please come on in?
Hello.
Hello, Jen. Do you give cha-cha slide lessons?
Listen.
No, but I got all those wedding, birthday party dances down. The wobble, Cupid shuffle, cha-cha slide. I got it down.
Okay.
Heard. You'd have a good time down here.
Yes, I'm sure, without breaking anything.
Listen.
Hold up.
So, Jen, thank you for coming on the show. So we definitely appreciate you. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So with 2024 ending, 2025 beginning, a lot of people have a New Year's resolutions to get their finances together, to save more money. What sort of tips do you have for us?
Yeah, so this is like the perfect time to think about it, especially if you're somebody who has already blown the budget because you didn't plan. So this is your opportunity again to think about it now and to go into the new year. Okay, how do I do things properly with intention? So, I think one of the things you can start with, if you are somebody that is like, oh my gosh, I didn't have money, I couldn't buy gifts. I mean, how many of you have seen reels making fun of like the only gift I'm giving this year are prayers? I mean, I've seen all the jokes, right? So this is your opportunity to plan intentionally so that you're not in that same position for the following, Christmas holiday season. So, what you can do is, do an assessment. I think that's really, really important at, when things calm down. And I mean, well, if you have time now, do it, because you really need to go into the new year with the understanding like, all right, what did I spend? What am I doing here? And when I say assessment, what I mean is stop and just do a check. Like, okay, what's in my checking account? What's in my savings account? When I was a financial advisor many years ago, I would meet with people that told me like, yeah, I think I have a Roth and my dad opened this account for me when I was a kid. Mind you, they're like 52 and they don't even look at it. I mean, I've heard it all. And I'm just like, how do you not know what's going on? But it happens, right? So do an assessment and look at all the accounts, no matter how big or small. You might have opened up that one Bitcoin thing online on an app and totally forgot about it, whatever it is. Do an assessment. And then you want to just write down the balances and just really take a look at what's going on. I don't even care if you think there's $1 in one of them, like write it down. You need to know what's happening. And then write it down or put it on a spreadsheet, however you want to do it. And then do the same thing. Like, do you have insurance? Do you have insurance policies? Is there a value in it? If you have, a cash value insurance type of policy, just do an assessment. And then start taking a look, look at your patterns. Are you spending too much? I mean, I see so many people telling me like, yeah, I had all the intentions. I can't pay the credit card bills because I spent too much here. And I got to tell you guys, the biggest expense that I see all the time across the board is always in entertainment and food, eating out. Hands down. I mean, y'all nodding your heads. Hands down, that's the one area everybody is overspending. And so if you don't know what's going on with your money, you can't blame it that, hey, I don't know what happened, because you don't, if you're aiming for nothing, that's exactly what you're going to get. You don't know what's going on. So just take the time to see, just take a look at your statements and just, look at the PDFs every month. Your bank has you, gives you the access to look at that and just take a look. Okay. All right. Even if you can categorize it, what are you spending on food? What are you spending on going out? Like, it just adds up so quickly. Okay. So I would say start there, and then you can start planning. So, one of the things people also might have a goal for is like, I want to start saving more, or I want to start investing. But you can't do those things if you don't even know what you're working with, and getting a handle on even your expenses. Do you even know the amounts that are going out? Or are you just kind of like, all right, if I just do the minimum here, I'm going to be good. All right. How many times we do that? We get so busy that you're just trying to just pay the minimum, but y'all know that's going to last 30 years, and you're just going to be paying way more than what the original purchase was. So it's having a good understanding of what you're doing and just taking the time, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm too busy. Yeah, but you know what? If you wanted to plan, I think Soleil's in Vegas. It's like, if you wanted to plan a 3-day weekend in Vegas, you'll spend more time doing that than spending time planning the next 30, 40 years of your life. It's just ridiculous. So take the time to think about, like, if I want my situation to change or get better, and I want to have intention with having these financial goals met, you have to take the time to do it. If it's that important to you, you'll do it. Okay. So aside from, wanting to save or, invest, you have to know what's going out, right? I could keep saying that because people don't understand what's going on with their money. And if you need something to track this with, you can do a simple spreadsheet, or there are a million apps out there. Sometimes people ask me like, well, what's the best one to use? I'm like, it doesn't matter which one. The one that's the best one to use is the one you're actually going to use. And you kind of have to test it, because some are free. Some have a minimal, monthly payment, but some might be more focused on, certain goals. Some might have different features. You kind of have to just play with the different apps that are out there. Just to name a few, there's one called You Need a Budget, YNAB. That's a good one. Dave Ramsey has one. There's just all kinds of different ones out there. Those are just the ones off the top of my head. And there's also free versions of these apps. So pick one. If you're not tracking it, that's the best thing you can do right now. Get into the habit of tracking those expenses and understanding what's going on with, I don't like the word budget. It sounds restrictive. I like the word spending plan, because if you have a plan for every dollar that's going out, then it's more likely you're going to stick to that and know what's going on. And instead of you guys looking at it like, oh my gosh, I don't like the budget, then look at it more of, this is actually buying you the freedom. Because when you know what's going on, you feel relaxed. You're not stressed. You know what's going to get taken care of. Like, think about when you were in a relationship and you didn't know what was going on. You didn't know the status. You didn't know when the next time you were going to see this person. You didn't know when they were going to call you. It feels yucky, right? But when we know what's going on, when we know what's going on with what's happening in the situation, we feel better, right? We're not stressed. We feel calm. And that's the kind of relationship I want you all to start having with your money. When you pay attention to it, you don't feel that stress, because you are now in a space where, like, I know where this is going. Okay, I feel good. That I don't have to worry about that's not going to get paid. Okay. So when you do that, you're going to be able to also see how much is left over, or how much you can plan. So if you want to start saving on a monthly basis, if you want to start investing on a monthly basis, you need to know how much you can set aside for it and treat it like a bill. How many times have you heard that phrase, pay yourself first? It's because you're treating like that whole action of paying yourself first like a bill. What ends up happening is people, get, rack up debt or buy things, and then they're like, well, if I have anything left over, then I'll save. Well, guess what? If that's the approach we're taking, you're not going to ever probably save. It's just going to get pushed away, pushed out. And it's just, you wake up one day and you're like in your 50s or whatever, late 40s, even early 60s. And I'm saying this from experience. I met with people that were that late in age, and then they were saying like, well, I need to start thinking about retirement, and I need to start saving. And I'm like, this should have happened like 40 years ago, right? So it doesn't, and depending on where you're at right now, the best thing I can say is just start with what you can. Start with what you can with what you have. It's the best thing you could do is just to not beat yourself up about it, but say to yourself, well, what can I do? What can I do? And meet with a professional to help you plan these things. Okay. So when you look at all these goals that you want, like I want to save and I want to invest, then you start to see, okay, if I can start with $25 a month, or if I can, and then you bump it up because it's a discipline. It's a habit that we need to build up. And so if you don't start somewhere and you keep pushing it aside, or you keep saying like, okay, I'll get to it when I get to it, then think about it. You probably won't likely get to it. And this is the thing with saving and investing. Time is your friend. Well, it is and it isn't. But if you're able to get into it where you're like, let's say if you're investing, then you're able to have that money compound over time. So now the money is working hard for you. So we won't get into all that, but it's just getting into these habits of, okay, I need to change what I'm doing now because I'm sick and tired of being broke or not getting ahead. But it's really going to take us to stop and take a look at like, okay, what is it that I'm doing? Because obviously whatever I'm doing now isn't changing my situation. So, it's just, having a come to Jesus meeting and really deciding like, I don't want to be in this position anymore. I want to do better. I want to do better for myself. I want to do better for my family. I want to be able to enjoy these things and live a good life. And so we need to change our habits. Okay. I'm going to stop and pause there. I don't know if you have any questions right now before I continue.
Yeah, I was just about to say a couple of folks on the panel have questions. Soleil,
Yeah.
I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, great information, Jen. Thanks for being with us.
Okay.
So my question on this panel, our ages ranges from the 20s up into the
very old.
60s for Eric. So
But
what
I
advice
look
would you
great
have?
though.
He's
You do.
old AF.
Very handsome.
There's hope.
Yes,
He doesn't
So-
even know what that means. That's how old he is.
What advice would you give for different age demographics going into the new year that may have different levels of income coming in and different priorities, whether it's kids or school or something like that? So how would you advise for somebody in their 20s, 30s, 40s?
Oh, this is a great question. I'm so glad you brought this up. Yeah, that's actually something to pay attention to because definitely your priorities are going to be different because you have different life stages. I think when you're young, the best thing you can do, I'm assuming Prince, you're young. The best thing you can do is start investing. And then I can't legally give advice in terms of where, because everybody's situation is different. But the best thing you can do is, I would say meet with a financial professional, check their licenses, check to see that they have the certifications to really sit down with you and guide you on like, okay, this is where you're at. This is your age range. These are your goals. This is the income you're working with. And I think and also that, it's the time frame, right? Because somebody in their 20s has 40, 50 years to go versus somebody that's going to be in their 50s, 60s. There's a shorter time frame, and I'm talking about till death, right? Till retirement, and then there's till death. And so there's definitely going to be different avenues that are taken because, for example, somebody that's going to be, that's in their 60s may not be able to invest in something that's riskier, or not necessarily riskier, but that has a higher volatility in the type of investment or whatnot. So a professional is going to be able to sit down with you and to assess, because even if somebody's in the same age bracket, somebody has a different tolerance. And when I mean tolerance, meaning like, oh, you know what, I just want something that feels safe, versus another person who might be more familiar with investments. Like, no, you know what, I'm good. I'm good with riding the market. I understand that it goes up and down. I can ride that volatility. So it's really going to depend on what that individual's tolerance is, their time frame, and their goals. But the biggest thing I can say is that, especially when you're young, it is so critically important to start. As soon as you start making that income, I don't even care if you can only do $50 a month, $25 a month. Start finding a way to start putting that away, because that compounding interest, oh my gosh, it's going to work for you. And so that's what I would say for somebody young. Now, somebody that's, more seasoned and mature, there's going to be other things. There's going to be, yes, there's going to be other things that we need to look at, right? Because it's not like you're going to be able to just, start putting $100 away into like a certain investment and expect to retire. So we're going to have to look at different things. I think the other thing that I would say is very critical is to look at estate planning when you're in that age bracket, right? Because this is where I start to see where things get really tricky, where I had a couple of friends who have elderly parents, and some of them were suffering from dementia. Some of them were, already, had some, really bad health challenges, and it affected their mind. And so they were trying to do estate planning. And I was like, we got to do this soon, because they can't make decisions anymore. And so it becomes this situation where I've seen people not take care of that, not look at, well, what happens if I pass away? What's going to happen to my spouse if there is one? What's going to happen to my family? Is there, insurance and life insurance in place? Like I've seen too many families neglect the estate planning part. Not to say that you can't do that in your earlier years, but my gosh, this is why we see, problems with probate. You see things being, battled out in court because a lot of this stuff wasn't taken care of before that person passed away. And it's really sad, because hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions, depending on the value of the estate, can just go wasted because it's going into probate court. It's just going to the attorneys, when all it took, again, was planning. So I think that's one of the critical things I would really urge people that if you haven't done that, that is so important to take a look at the estate planning. And then, across the board, I would also say, regardless if you're young or old, do you have life insurance? Do you have some kind of plan in place? So, we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know. And so anything can happen. And it's so important to have all these different things prepared. So, I would say and encourage everybody, if you're looking to go into the new year and you want to get solid, especially with your money, start taking a look at, do I have these things in place? If something were to happen to me, what is going to happen to my family that I leave behind? Do I have, investments in place? If I, end up living a long life, is there going to be income coming in? So we need to take a look at all these things and getting our money straight and right, because it takes planning. And I know sometimes it's like, oh, I'll get to it, please. Like, death waits for no one sometimes. And so we have to be careful and very diligent. And I think, I'll end it with this sentence, that I think when you plan and you have like really solid financial goals and you execute them and you do your best to make it a discipline and habit, I think it is the most loving thing you could do for yourself and your family.
Well, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Princeton, what questions do you have?
Yeah, I just got one question for you. I'll try and make it quick for you. But a lot of people, I guess, go into the new year and they have these resolutions like, I want to save more money or spend less on fast food. But I guess, you get into the new year and then halfway through you realize you haven't saved anything. So what are some common, I guess, traps that you've observed or pitfalls that people fall into that we can kind of watch out for in order to not succumb to those things?
I think it's important to I'm going to go back to the beginning to do the assessment. I think you really need to take a look at where's the money going, because I think if you don't do that, it's just not intentional. You're just kind of making it a like, well, yeah, I'll get to it. Yeah, well, I'll start saving. Well, I'll do it next month. It's kind of like the gym. How many people make health resolutions? I'm going to start working out next year. I'm going to start next year. I'm going to start next month. And then they still haven't gone to the gym, and then another month goes by and they're paying for this membership and not using it. If you don't stop to think first, I think not only doing an assessment, I think you really need to just do some reflecting. Stop and pause and say, why is this important to me? Why do I want to change my situation? And then take a look at, do I want to still feel this way, or do I want to feel better about my money? What is it that you want to change? I think we need to really dig deep and really ask ourselves, why do we want to change the situation? Because sometimes for some people, they get to rock bottom, or they get to a point where it gets so bad, and then you're trying to dig yourself out of a deeper hole. Well, why do we want to get to that point, right? So I think it's important to take a look at, like, why do I want to save? What is this going to get me? Is it going to get me a stress-free life? Am I going to feel good about that I'm saving? And when you can really attach the emotion to it, and what is that habit and discipline action going to get you, you're going to be able to hang on to that goal and feel like I really want to work towards that. It doesn't just become this thing I just wrote down and then I don't have any intention or planning behind it. I think we need to start there, because I know for me, for example, like when I write some goals, I will really think about like, okay, why is this important to me? And then the other question is, what am I going to feel, or what's going to happen if I don't do this? And I think that question is really deep too, because when you start to see like, okay, I'm going to be in the same situation. Okay, I'm still going to be broke. Okay, I'm still going to be unhealthy. Do I want to? And, even with health, I see people wait to fix their health or get into, those healthy habits. They don't do it until they get a notice from the doctor that's saying, hey, you're diabetic now, or hey, this is you got some cardiac problems. And I'm just like, gosh, why did you wait? And we don't want to get to those points, right? So I think when we stop and pause to take a look at what's going to happen if I don't do this, I think that's going to be, I can't say it's going to be the be all end all, but I think it's important for us to feel the gravity of not doing that and moving forward that way.
Okay, thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right, so I think we will go to Patrick next.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jen, so much for being here. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So the spoils of going after some of my colleagues here had a lot of my thunder stolen. So we'll just make a couple of things real quick on my side. Number one, I'm young as hell. I mean, come on, look at this baby face.
I can tell.
Number two, yeah, thanks. I
Compared
appreciate
to Eric, yes.
Well, I mean,
You know
number
what?
two, I am
Oh,
exactly one of those people that have an IRA somewhere, and I know that I do, that don't know where the paperwork is, and I really probably should do that. So I'm going to do that and add that to the second part of this show, which is the New Year's resolution, to try to figure out where the hell that money is, because I do have one somewhere floating around.
Right.
Other than that, after they kind of stole everything, the only other questions I had for you was money. How do I get more of it without doing as much as possible? And number two, as a married man, most of us are insignificant. Don't shake your head at me, Eric. Some of us are in significant relationships. What advice would you give to a spouse or a significant other that's trying not to micromanage their spouse's financial spendings, but may need to? What advice would you give?
Oh, okay. All right. Let me adjust your missing money first. Do you at least know what company it's with?
No, but I have a buddy that it's through, so I have a contact.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
not complete. Like I have no idea where it's. Okay, yeah, please get
Yeah.
on that, because you don't. Yeah, I will say for
Yeah.
anybody that's in that similar
Procrastination list. I added it to it.
I see a lot on that paper.
Yeah, right, for real. I take
like
notes.
full-
I'm professional.
That's what I missed
professional.
about you, Jen. Right down the middle. That's what I missed about you.
So
All these guys underestimate me. No, go
I
ahead.
know. So I would say, it's super important if you're in a situation where you don't know, oh gosh, I have an account somewhere. Please, please, please find out where it's at, who it's with, the balance, and more importantly, what is it invested in? Because if it's been a long time, chances are it's not still. It's still not. It
It's
may
a
not
Roth
be matching
IRA.
your goals anymore, right? Because it could be, for example, don't quote me on this, but I'm just giving you an example. It could be that you set this up in your 20s and it's in like some kind of super aggressive type of fund, and now it's like many years later, and it may not be the same goals. So you need to adjust what that money is invested in. Or even worse, true story. Had a client years ago where she was investing in this money market, and just so a money market is like practically like a glorified savings account. It was making like 0.04%, and she did this through her work in her 401k plan, and she had it in there for 17 years. It was barely making anything, and it was so sad because she didn't know to take the time to look at it and to make sure she was in the right funds.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to
on my notes, it says, ask Nick right there.
Yes.
That's my buddy.
Ask Nick
right there.
all the things.
Ask Nick. Nick, if you're watching, I'm calling you.
Right. So going to your question about the spouse or significant other, really important to have a talk. I like to call them money dates. You just have a talk and say, like, what are our goals? What is it that we want to be doing into the next year? And if it's something that you guys have never done before, it's important to, like, hey, you know what? Let's do things differently. Let's be intentional with our money and just kind of get a check and feel of like where we're at. Does your partner feel safe? Do they feel secure? Are they confused? Let's start there, because money has been such a taboo topic that people don't want to talk about it sometimes. Or it's also, we weren't taught how to talk about it. So we don't talk about it until there's a problem or a crisis or a fight breaks out. And we don't even realize, like, hey, we never talked about this. We're not even on the same page. So start there.
It's like me.
I do. I know. Yeah, 19 years of being in the financial.
I should say my significant other, but anyway.
Right.
We're not going to name any names.
No names, no blaming, no shame. So we want to find out where are we at, and have a real honest talk about it. And I think it's also important to preface it this way. This is not about micromanaging. This is not about me blaming you for your stupid poor habits or whatever. This is not about judgment. You have to start off that this is about open, honest communication, or you're never going to get anywhere, right? Because how many times have we rushed an attack and then, like, what'd you buy and why'd you do that? And then shut down, immediate shutdown. You can't do it that way. It's just like you're feeling attacked. So now forget it. You're not talking about nothing. So we have to go in there with some grace, humility, and set the tone that, like, hey, I want to have this conversation because I want us to do better. Babe, I want us to win. I'm
really good at grace and humility. You can ask James. I'm really good at that.
You're going to have to put that on your list and find some. So it's
really good at those too.
Yes. So we need to just have that open conversation. Like, hey, babe, I want us to win. I want us to do better. So I think it's important if we start taking a look at how we're going into the new year with our money. And so we start there, right? And then explain, okay, this is how, what is it that we want to do? What is it that we want to accomplish? Like, what are some of the goals that we have? And I've done this exercise with some couples. I said, like, hey, you guys just separate and write separate lists. Write separate lists. Like, you just dream, you want that motorcycle, you want to go on that fishing trip, and then you want to buy, this, and all these gadgets. And then she might, I want to remodel the kitchen. I want to go to Spain, like whatever it is. And then come together and openly talk about it, and then just be realistic. Okay, well, what are the top 3 we might want to do? What are the ones you want to do together? And what are the ones you want to do individually? But at least at this point, you at least get to dream individually, and then you can see where you can dream together. And that's fun. And you need to bring that fun into it, because if it's all about the budgeting and the bills, that gets old, and then nobody's having fun no more. So we need to bring that fun element in it, because that's something that's encouraging, right? Because then when you have that fun element, now you're encouraged to save. Now you're encouraged, like, oh my gosh, we can totally do this. Let's start setting aside this amount every month. Do you see how there's a correlation between if we can bring that element in, if there's intentionality, if there's some kind of motivator that helps us understand and see, like, okay, this is how I'm going to feel. Imagine when we go on that trip. Imagine how you're going to feel when you get to ride your motorcycle with the guys every weekend. Like, now you're motivated to do these habits versus, okay, I'm just making a budget and like, well, I'll get to it. You didn't bring the dreaming into it. You just made it all freaking boring. So we have to do this dreaming and bring this fun element. So that's important to do. And then to answer the question without the micromanaging, one of the ways that I've seen this done is that, obviously be open with the accounts in terms of, like, you both do these check-ins where, like, okay, this is what I have, this is what this is what you do, and all that. So it's an open book. But I think it's also, we can't get into the argument of, like, do we have joint, do we have separate? But I will say this, one of the things I think that's been successful is when there is a joint account, and that account handles all the expenses. The mortgage, the utilities, the insurance premiums, all those things. That way you guys can determine, like, okay, I'm going to put this much into the joint account for the expenses, and then I'm going to put this much in here. So all the things that are important get taken care of. And then you can have, like, your you guys have your individual accounts. Go do your, if you want to buy that one fishing gadget, have at it, take it out of your account. If, she wants to buy something and go do, spa day, take it out of that account. But at least no matter what happens, the main things got paid out of that joint account, and everything in the household is taken care of. That's a nice, clean way to do it. And it doesn't mean that it, and hear me out. I'm not saying that those separate accounts, you don't talk about it, but at least if those coming out of there, there's no arguing about like, well, why did you buy that when we have to pay tuition for our kids? Do you see how this, it's just clean. Because if you ran out of money in your account, then no, you can't buy that thing, and vice versa for her. But again, at least the things that needed to be taken care of came out of that joint account that you guys already agreed on what was going to be contributed from each of you. Does that make sense? So there's
see, James, listen, I just want us to do better, buddy. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this conversation. Just want us to be better.
I thought you were naming names.
Yeah,
I'm not your sick of other.
We're not naming names.
Right.
We're going to be nice. We're not going to.
I'm not your sick of other. I mean, significant other.
About.
Well,
Mr. Are you breaking up with me? Sorry. All right.
Oh,
thank you. I appreciate that. I have a role here, Jen. If you didn't realize, I have a role here, so I appreciate you.
Is it called the scapegoat?
I could be. I get blamed. Listen,
something.
I get blamed for a lot around here. I get blamed for a lot. Yes, ma'am, I do. So
I sense that. Oh, you know what? You did have one more question. I'll address real quickly. You said, "How do I make money?" I think one of the there's a lot of ways. I think if you guys just explore different ways you can do it online, man, people are open Etsy stores. People are selling like, things that they've made. I mean, it's just so crazy. I think if you just, go to YouTube and explore like how, I would say go to YouTube University and explore it. And I think if you can even by narrowing it down to thinking about what is it that I love doing, what's fun for me, don't rule anything out, because I'm telling you, there are people selling anything under the sun. And so it could be even certain like advice. It could be certain like how do you do XYZ? And so think about what it is that is, and then go to YouTube and look up other people that might be in that same space, and look up how do I make money doing XYZ, and start studying what are these people out there doing, because I'm telling you, it's the wildest thing that I'm like, I can't believe somebody figured out to make money that way. But start with something that is something that you would enjoy and something that you would be able to have fun with. I think it's important to also pay attention to, are there things that people come to you often that are asking for your advice and you're doing it for free? Because there's always something that somebody's coming like, hey, you know what? I always love going to you because you know exactly how to fix this. Or you have such good advice on whenever I have a problem with XYZ. Pay attention to those things, because there's always a way to monetize that.
I just wish there was a market for chubby red bearded men. That'd be nice.
There probably is. Go to YouTube.
Okay, listen, now you really do have an answer for just about everything. That's awesome.
I try my best.
I'm done.
Well, what we want to do, we know Jen's got a lot of stuff going on, so we definitely don't want to keep her too long. So we do have James, who needs to ask a question or two or six. I don't know. But Mr. Montgomery, the floor is yours.
Well, first, I'm going to be smart here, and I'm going to yield the question from my wife. Jen, she thanks you for your advice and ask, are there any sites you recommend for investing or investment firms?
Oh gosh, yeah. There's so many. The ones that pop off the top of my head, I'm thinking, NerdWallet is one of them. I mean, I can't even think of any other ones that right now, but there's a lot. I would say, definitely do your research in terms of like, okay, if you find because it's like a big world. So there's different investment firms. You can also go to a site called finra.org, FINRA. I think it's .org, or I don't think it's .com. But anyways, that is the regulatory body that looks over the like professionals. So you want to make sure, like, if you're working with somebody, that they have licenses, there's no violations and things like that. That's how you can do background checks on certain financial professionals. So there's that site. But in terms of like firms, I think it really comes down to when you meet with somebody, because that person is going to be somebody that's guiding you with your money. And I think it's important to interview different people. And when you interview different people, you want to see, like, do I get a good vibe? And when I'm talking to them, do they make me feel comfortable? If I have questions, are they talking over my head? Do they do a good job of explaining these what may seem as complex investment concepts, you know, in a fancy way and using jargon, or do they make me feel good about working with them? And don't feel like you have to just work with them because, like, you know, they sound like they know what they're doing. Like, interview a bunch of people. I think it's so important to have that, you know, trust your intuition and work with somebody like, you know, I like them. I felt good about asking questions. They made me feel comfortable. They explained it in a certain way. And then the other thing too is when you work with you know, professionals in the financial field, they usually will have contracts with multiple investment firms, like companies. Like we're contracted with different companies, and pay attention to why they chose a certain company for you. Why did they choose a certain strategy or a product? And ask questions. And then if you don't know what questions to ask, again, go back to YouTube University and do the research and go find out what are the most common questions I need to ask a financial professional before I work with them. And then you'll be able to just kind of go down like a ton of rabbit holes with it. But I think the biggest thing to pay attention to is the person that you will be working with that's going to help you transact these different things, because you definitely want somebody to guide you. I think some of the mistakes I've seen people do is trying to do it all on their own and then just paying attention to like influencers that don't have licenses that are just kind of going off and just like, yeah, buy this. And I'm just like, this is a whole pet peeve of mine. I have a friend who's a certified financial planner, and her and I have these conversations where, like, man, it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary seeing people just offering all of this financial advice on these internet streets, and they don't have licenses. They're an influencer.
And they believe it. People believe it.
That's the scary part. And I'm sitting there like, how the heck is this person telling people to buy XYZ when they don't even know who they're talking to? They don't know if they're talking to, like, you know, what's the layout? What if it's a 20-year-old? What if it's a 6-year-old? What if it's an 80-year-old grandma? You can't give that same advice, telling that 80-year-old grandma the same advice to do the same thing that you're saying to the 22-year-old watching. Very dangerous. So be careful when you're watching somebody on the gram and offering all this stuff. Oh, make sure you know, buy this and this. I'm just like, that's scary. So pay attention to, you know, where the advice is coming from, but do your due diligence and check the backgrounds on, you know, financial professionals and interview people and get a feel and vibe if this is somebody that you want to work with long term, because they're helping you plan the rest of like your decades. So it's a huge, big, important decision you're going to make.
Okay. So Patrick, before you call Nick, make sure you look him up on FINRA. See what his background. Yeah,
It's a little late for him. A little late.
right.
A buddy of mine.
Yeah, and if they're still active too, because there's a high turnaround in the financial field. So you know, if somebody hasn't you haven't talked to somebody in a while, you want to make sure, like, hey, are they still like active in terms of their licenses? Yeah.
He was a smaller company, but I believe it was written through like Charles Schwab or something, a bigger company, like what you had said. He wrote it through a different company.
Right.
I'm gonna call Nick. I'm gonna give you an update. There's gonna be an update.
Yeah, I want the update. Give us the update.
There'll be an update show.
Jen, I just got 2 things for you for myself, and they're both extremely quick.
Okay.
You talk about I'm going to throw them at you at the same time. You talked about saving. What's the advantages of saving at a credit union versus a bank is my first question. And the second one is something you mentioned, do a self-reflection. Why do you want to change? And I think a question you may have to start with, and I would like your thoughts, is, do you want to change? So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So the first one about the credit union versus the bank, the biggest difference is that the credit union is like, you know, owned or like regulated by, it's like a community. It's not the corporation. So that's the biggest difference, right? It's like Bank of America versus, you know, such and such credit union of farmers. I'm making this up. The other difference is in a credit union, it has a more personal feel. You know, they have they can, it seems that they can also have, I've been a member of both. Not a member, you're like a member of a credit union, you're a client of a bank. It's really the experience that you want to have, you know. But in terms of like, are the products legit? Are they, you know, it's all above board. Everything's like regulated. So there's no worry in that area. It's more of the type of experience that you want to have. If it's more of like, you know, the community versus, you know, a corporation. The other thing too with a credit union, usually they have like the I'm trying to remember what it's like, first credit teachers. There's like, it's like when I say community, it's also like there's a certain group that tends to have the credit union, like teachers or, you know, different professions. So that's also that community feel. So, but other than that, they could be selling the same things, right? So there's that question. And then in terms of the, you know, if you don't want to change, then yeah, some people may decide that they don't want to, and that's their personal choice. And so I think it's really good to reflect to see like, hey, you know what, if I'm going to decide to stay this way, then listen, don't complain. Don't complain. Don't be a burden on the people around you. You know, make a plan. And that's the thing that I think I've seen with, like, for example, like a funeral. And you know, when people don't plan and there is no insurance in place and they didn't want to get it, or they didn't want to do estate planning, and it sucks because the person who it's happening to didn't want to change, didn't want to plan, and yet everybody's encouraging it and trying to help. But who ends up suffering? The people who are left
Personal
behind.
life.
Mhm.
The people who are left behind. And I think that is the most selfish thing to do. You put the burden on your adult children, you put the burden on your spouse, you put the burden on everybody else, and then it creates dissension. You have people arguing, like, I'm telling you, I've heard it all. I've heard people arguing like, well, like siblings. Well, why do I have to pay for the funeral? You guys make more. Well, why do we have to pay for it? We have kids and you don't. I mean, all kinds of ugly come out because that person didn't want to change, didn't want to plan, didn't want to do anything. And they're so selfish. They don't think of it. You are affecting everybody that's alive and you're dead. And because you didn't want to change and plan and take time to do it because you just think, well, I'll be dead. I've heard it all. I'm dead. Just put me in a box. And we still got to put your body somewhere. It's not free. We still got to put you in the ground. That's thousands of dollars. And people don't realize funerals.
Have you met my father before, Jen? I'm just curious. Has he met Russ?
I don't know.
I feel like everything that just came out of your mouth, I have heard about 900 times in the last couple of months.
Oh, I've seen it over the decades. And it's like,
And you all
I
know
mean,
Dad, so
yeah, I mean, I've been in the financial service field for almost 20 years and I've heard almost all scenarios, and I'm just like, put me in a box. I'm like, we still got to bury you. And it's just so, it's so frustrating for me to see people like adult children just saying like, my mom doesn't want to do this. I'm now in probate. And I have a client who could have had 6 figures from the estate and it got dwindled down to 30 because her mom didn't get not estate planning, but her mom didn't get a trust that I told her to make sure you get. She ends up with $30,000 instead of 6 figures because all of it went to probate court and the attorney. And then she had to split it with her 3 other siblings who weren't even helping. And it was just like nightmare story after nightmare story. And it's like, it's the people who unfortunately have been a victim of it end up being the ones saying, I don't want this to happen to me. I don't want this to happen to my kids. But my thing is, why do we have to wait for it to get there in order to take action, in order to take heed of what could possibly happen? It's like, plan now. So it's like, I don't know what else I got for you. Like, I don't, you know, if you don't want to change, the only thing I ask then is like, have money set aside so that you don't burden the loved ones that you left behind.
That's an excellent point. I'm sorry, James, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Well, look, we definitely appreciate you. We're going to give you a couple of moments just to kind of let us know what platforms you're on and what you're up to. So the floor, Jen, is yours.
Ooh, I got some background music.
Somebody was jamming.
Yeah, if you want to follow me or get in touch, you can go to this handle right here. It's my site is jenmoneycoach.com, or on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook you can go to @jenmoneycoach. And then the other thing too, just thank you for letting me do this. My 7th book is this one, The Creative Code. It's on Amazon, and it's really more about money mindset. and it's not so much on the logistics. My other book was about that kind of stuff, but this book was more focused on the simple things that you can do to change your relationship within yourself and the way you look at money, because the whole point is bringing more of it into your life. But what I've done for myself and for people that I've worked with, I've noticed there's certain things that people aren't doing, and they're hanging on to like guilt and shame and all these different things, and they're not improving their relationship with money. And in short, what happens is that's causing an energetic block from wealth to come to you. So that's what this book is about.
Okay. Well, make sure that you make sure that we get all of your social information so we can drop it in on the Ear Hustling Podcast Facebook page. And we definitely appreciate you. Hopefully you've got some time for us in 2025. You're always welcome back, and we definitely appreciate you.
Thank you. You guys have been such a blast to hang out with tonight. Thank you.
Round of applause.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
Happy
Yeah,
holidays.
appreciate it.
Guys, happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Merry
All right.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right. That was definitely a pretty interesting segment. Kind of.
That was great.
Think about, it really makes you think about the aspect of you dying. I think that a lot of people have an issue with the whole estate planning because it kind of puts your life expectancy. It kind of almost labels it like you're almost expecting for it.
We're going through that right now in my household. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So, but we could spend hours talking about that, and I'm sure that we all don't want to be on here for hours. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions, and we're going to talk about how long do they think they last. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go first with my New Year's resolution. It's real simple. You know what? I want to take more vacations. I want to take more.
You want to spend more money?
Well, you know what?
Dang.
Did
you listen to anything that Jen just said? Jesus.
You have to be able. You have to be able to budget that type of stuff, though. So in order for me to take more vacations, I have to manage my money better. So I'm not talking about spending more money, just reallocating money that I was spending unnecessarily, say on fast foods, things of that nature, to take those vacations. So that's my New Year's resolution. And how long do I think it's going to last? Well, it better last all year because I want to go on a few trips. But that's my New Year's resolution.
You're coming out here, right?
Yes, I am. That's already booked. So I am coming out to Las Vegas for WrestleMania.
Yo.
Nice.
You're already working towards it.
Yeah, no, everything is booked except for the plane tickets. The hotel is booked. The tickets for both days are booked. Spending money has started to be set aside for that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And Soleil, don't get too busy because when we out there, we do definitely want to at least run into you like we did last time, have lunch, something.
Yeah, she'll make sure to keep her schedule clear just for you. Well,
actually, while you talking junk, did you not, Soleil, when we came out there, did you not clear your schedule?
We had a good time. Yep.
Well, look here, Eric, as Mr. Consistency, as I am, I just want to say that we're coming up on 8 minutes left for showtime. And so I'll go next and get my New Year's resolution out. This one is
I love
real
you,
simple one. I'm Mr. Consistency. What do you know? But I made mine simple.
Well, thank you, Princeton, for that. We're going to go to Patrick.
that's not helping the time.
No. I made mine simple, easy, because I feel like people make these overcomplicated resolutions, and that's why they kind of fall through. So my New Year's resolution is simply not to drink as much coffee. I want to drink less coffee. I am a coffeeholic. I drink 1 to 2 cups every single day and have since I was probably like 6 years old. No lie. I'm trying to tone it down.
1 to 2 cups.
It's
That's
tough.
not horrible.
It's not, but every day.
It's 6.
Every day, it's probably too much.
Definitely, probably pretty regular. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try and cut it down. That's my New Year's resolution.
All right, Patrick, 7 seconds or less, please.
Yeah, 7 seconds. First thing I had to ask Nick, and then my procrastination list that I had was I need to fix my business website. It's outdated, and I don't think I've touched it since like 2007.
Dang.
So,
oh my god,
goodness.
I'm all on Facebook now. I do all of my social media stuff now that my actual website is so outdated. I think it still has the old phone number on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got people calling you and wondering why you're not answering.
Yeah, you're
No, I
losing money there,
mean,
buddy.
I don't really use that URL anymore. I mean, I don't want to lose it, but I don't. All of my traffic goes to my Facebook page. All of my traffic goes to my social media. So I don't even really plug the website anymore. But I do get feed and I have to pay for it all the time. I'm always getting little things on my phone that says you got to pay this and this all the time. So I got to fix my website. That's my resolution.
Fix it. All right, cool beans. Mr. Montgomery?
I honestly don't believe in resolutions because of the reasons, because they don't really last typically. So I don't think you have to wait till New Year's to make a New Year's resolution. You just make a goal at any time of the year. So with that being said, I want to change my my outlook on working out. And I saw something that resonated with me, and it said, work out to feel good, not be thinner. So that's something I want to take to heart. And the other thing is do random acts of kindness. That really kind of spoke to me as well.
Oh, you know what? I think that I might have done.
Random acts of kindness. Hey, a good one. Have you guys ever been like in a drive-through and somebody's paid for your order before? Like that's some good shit to do. Let's do that.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah, let's make a pact here that like all five of us do that before the next show, because what is it like? We're not going to be together for a while, so
January 8th.
Why don't we?
I must confess something. I must confess something. When I did do it, I just didn't do it. I did say, "Hey, how much is the bill behind me?" I just didn't want to just pay for it. Like they bought for like 60 people.
Family of 6.
So, yeah.
On a 60-piece nuggets and yeah.
Right. So I mean, I don't know if that counts for anything. It's still an act of kindness. I did pay for it, but it was like $8. So.
Oh, okay.
So you lucked out. You just got the one with getting a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
probably made
much.
their day though. Probably made their day.
I would think so. My day was made when it happened to me. So anyway.
Well, you know what? Speaking of day, Princeton, you've got this day in history.
And Soleil likes
Soleil.
resolutions.
Soleil,
I'm sorry.
You don't get to make a resolution.
I'm sorry.
He doesn't care about you, Soleil. He doesn't care about you.
Yes, I do.
He just wants his schedule clear in April.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
apologize.
Right?
Yes, that's
Just
true.
use me
Yes,
to
that's
take
true. But
him
I
to a nice
apologize.
place.
I apologize. Oh, I
All
really
right,
apologize.
so-
Don't punish Johnny because of what I did.
I'm like James. I don't believe in resolutions, but I do have annual themes. And so this has been a very difficult year for me in ways y'all don't understand. And so my theme going into next year is just to renew, rebuild, and repair. And so everything that I do will go into, doing those things for myself. So that's my theme.
Hey, self-betterment. Here's to that.
That sounds like
Most definitely.
a nice T-shirt.
Yeah, right?
Well, Soleil, since I accidentally skipped you, I feel that it's only right for me to let you go ahead and do Soleil's sexy picks, since you've got the floor right now. I don't want you.
Eric,
Somebody doesn't read chat.
Yeah,
He
you just
doesn't.
off
He
tonight,
does. You should
boy.
know. Listen. It's our fault, though. We should know this.
It's
by
going to
now.
be on the Facebook page. It's going to
Okay.
be on the
We should know
Facebook
that.
page.
Is
We
that
don't
over?
have time.
We should.
We're
Oh,
ready
okay.
to
You
go
know
on
what? I'm
vacation.
sorry. I did see that. All right. Well, go on vacation after Princeton tell us this day in history, and then James does his spitball.
I don't read your chat.
Well, look, how about this?
Whoa!
I'll wrap us
Hey,
up.
you
I'll wrap us
can't
up
do
with
this
this day.
in-
Always wrap it up. That's the best advice. Always wrap it up, Prince. Always wrap it up.
First of all, real quick, that Mom wanted to let you know that it's not on her. She was putting coffee in my bottle, so it definitely was on her. No, so this day in history, maybe I'm just uninformed or ignorant, but I actually found out that on December 18th, 1972, so this day in 1972, that Joe Biden, his first wife, actually passed away. His first wife and her daughter, his daughter. He had a 13-month-old daughter named Naomi, and his first wife's name was Neelia. I'm probably killing that pronunciation. I'm sorry?
Mail order.
No.
Hell.
No.
No, but so
Wasn't from Russia,
I didn't
that's
even
for
know
sure.
that he had a first wife, and also it said that his son was in the car as well, but he was just injured. He didn't pass away at that time. So I was just surprised to find out that he had another wife previously, and that's all I got.
Did they have
He had a
estate
daughter
planning?
named Naomi.
They have a state plan.
This was when he was
I'm pretty
just
sure.
turning 30, so probably not at that time. Who knows? He was so young man. So this was a long time ago.
That's crazy.
Well, he
But
was
that's
working
all
for
I
the
got for you
government
for this
then.
day in history.
Wow.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to jump in. We didn't talk about this, but I'm going to jump in really quick. We are off for the next couple of weeks, ladies and gents. And Eric, we're off. So spend time with family and friends. I'm not saying you guys aren't family and friends, but enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We will be back for season 4, January the 8th. And at that time, we're going to discuss the year in review for 2024. So, anyone have any words of wisdom before Eric signs us off?
Don't eat the yellow snow.
Very, very appropriate.
Just
Cash
everybody
at me.
Cash app you. Okay. Everybody, from all of us to all of you, we really appreciate you guys hanging in there with us for the year. Through 27 episodes. It was nice coming together with the 4 of you to go ahead and do this reboot. And I definitely appreciate and I love all of y'all. Maybe not the same way, but I love all of y'all. Well, maybe except Princeton because he don't want to be my godson, but that's a story for another year.
Neither here nor there.
You want it too bad at this point.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm like the Lions wanting to win a championship. I just want to just the feeling just one time. Just one time.
Well, I just hope Nick answers the phone.
Yes, I do. I hope Nick answers the phone too. But yeah, Patrick, you definitely got to give us that update though, because I'm anxious to find out how that happened, and I need to look into it myself from past jobs.
Oh, I do have to say one last thing. I do want to hereby extend Shay's contract as being the executive producer. So definitely extend her contract. And it's not open for negotiation. She has to accept. So congratulations, Shay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Nice. See y'all next year.
See y'all next
Yeah,
year.
next year.
Bye.